The smell of cinnamon and baked apple was the first memory Derek had of Grandma Virginia's house. That sweet and welcoming aroma embraced him like a hug every time he walked through the dark wooden door of the small house in the quiet suburb where he grew up. It was this same smell that welcomed him the first night he arrived there, empty-handed and with an even emptier heart, at 8 years old. The accident took everything: a curve, the rain, the silence afterward. Derek, 8 years old, arrived at his grandmother's house with a small suitcase and a shattered heart. "Everything will be all right," lied Virginia, as she hurriedly prepared the guest room, hanging a picture of a boat on a calm sea. At night, in the dark, the boy swallowed his sobs. The silence of the house was painful, until, in a broken whisper, he asked the emptiness, "Are you leaving too?" He didn't know she was there, watching. The grandmother knelt, aching knees, and held his face in her calloused hands. "No, my love. I'll only go if you let me." And that night, and on all the others, he slept with her hand squeezing his, until he learned that love is also this, someone who stays. The years shaped into silent routines. Breakfast at 7, carefully packed lunches, homework on the kitchen table. Virginia was always there, on feverish nights with cold compresses, at the school office facing the principal for him, with the first broken heart, offering ice cream and harsh words that hurt less than rejection. When the medicine acceptance letter arrived, Derek hesitated. "Grandma, we don't have money." She shrugged. "It's already settled." Only later did he find out. His grandfather's rings, the family jewels, all sold. When he tried to return the money, Virginia stopped him with a firm look. "Your grandfather would say that knowledge is the only inheritance no one can steal from you." And in that sentence, Derek understood. Love was also this: silent detachment, hands that opened to let it fly. It was in college that Derek met Alice. It wasn't a cinematic meeting, just two students sharing a table in the crowded library during exam week. They exchanged numbers. They studied together other times, until the studies turned into coffees, the coffees into dinners, and soon they were inseparable. Alice was like a fresh breeze on a stifling summer day, refreshing, calm, capable of bringing peace to the most chaotic environment. She had a subtle and intelligent sense of humor, and a listening ability that made Derek feel that every word of his mattered. During weekend visits to his grandmother's house, Derek began to talk about Alice. At first, Virginia just listened, nodding her head while preparing dinner. After a few months, when he announced that he would bring his girlfriend to meet her, his grandmother seemed excited. The first meeting was tense. Virginia, always direct, bombarded Alice with questions about family, plans, and expectations. Derek had never seen his grandmother act like that, and he was embarrassed. But Alice answered everything with honesty and grace, without being intimidated. At the end of the visit, to Derek's surprise, Virginia hugged Alice and said, "Come back any time, the door will be open." In the car, returning to college, Alice laughed. "Your grandmother is exactly as you described, tough on the outside, soft on the inside." "Sorry for the interrogation. She has never been like this with anyone I introduced before." Alice squeezed his hand. "It's because she cares too much about you. She's afraid that someone might hurt you." Derek noticed over time that although Virginia was polite and even affectionate with Alice, there was always a reserve, a certain distance that he couldn't understand. He thought it was just his grandmother's way. After all, Virginia had never been outgoing with anyone. At Derek's graduation, the two most important women in his life were there, side by side, applauding when he received the diploma. That evening, during the celebratory dinner, Derek took Alice by surprise, kneeling in the restaurant with a small ring. Simple, but meaningful, the best he could afford with his savings. "Alice, will you marry me?" Alice, with tears in her eyes, said yes while the other patrons applauded. Derek looked at Virginia, hoping to see her face lit up with happiness. But what he saw was a smile that didn't reach her eyes and hands that trembled slightly as she held her wineglass. The following months were filled with wedding preparations. Alice, organized as always, had lists and more lists. Virginia offered to help with whatever she could, and the two spent afternoons choosing flowers, tasting cakes, discussing details. Everything seemed perfect. But Derek noticed something strange whenever he left them alone, a silence that settled in, a subtle tension. "Is everything okay between you and Grandma?" Alice asked one night. "Of course, why wouldn't it be?" she replied, but there was hesitation in her voice. The church was chosen, the same one where Derek's parents got married. The priest, who had known the family for years, suggested some premarital counseling sessions, as he did with all couples. "It's just an opportunity for us to talk about expectations, challenges, and for me to get to know you better as a couple," explained the priest. At one of these meetings, he suggested bringing close family members. Alice invited her parents, and Derek invited Virginia. It was a calm conversation about family traditions, values, and what each family expected from this union. At the end of the meeting, the priest looked at Derek with that serene expression and asked, "Derek, are you ready to take this step?" He took a deep breath, about to respond, when he felt Virginia's hand grab his. Trembling, cold. He turned to his grandmother and saw tears in her eyes, something rare, something that frightened him. "I cannot let you do this," said Virginia, her voice choked. The silence that followed was deafening. Alice, sitting next to him, froze. Her parents exchanged confused glances. The priest seemed unsure of how to proceed. "Grandma?" was all Derek could say. "You are not ready," Virginia continued, gripping his hand even tighter. "She will take you away." Derek felt as if the ground opened up beneath his feet. For the first time, he saw what had been there all along, Virginia's deep fear of being alone again, of losing the last person she had left. "Grandma, I will never leave you," he said gently. "Marrying Alice doesn't mean abandoning you. But you have plans. That job in the capital, the office that offered Alice an internship. It's so far away." Derek didn't know that Virginia was aware of these details. They had discussed possibilities, of course, but nothing was decided. "We can talk about this. Find solutions that work for everyone," Alice intervened, with the calm voice Derek loved so much. Virginia shook her head. That's when Derek fully understood. It wasn't selfishness on her part. It was fear mixed with love. Virginia had spent her entire life taking care of others. First her daughter, then her grandson. Her identity was intertwined with this caregiver role. Without it, who would she be? He took a deep breath and, with his hand still on hers, replied with respect. "Grandma, you gave me everything, and that's why I know what love is. You raised me to live, not to stop. I will do this indeed, because it is with her that I want to continue my story, but you will always be a part of it, of our story." Virginia lowered her eyes, her hand still holding his. She didn't respond, and she didn't need to. The days that followed were quiet. Virginia withdrew, like a tide that recedes into itself. Derek tried to talk to her several times, but she always changed the subject, saying everything was fine, that it was just a moment of weakness. Alice, although deeply hurt, surprised Derek with her understanding. She raised you on her own, Derek. You are the center of her world. It's natural for her to be afraid. But to say that in front of everyone. Alice took his hands. She was honest, maybe in the wrong way at the wrong time, but it was real. It's better than fake smiles and hidden resentments. Derek admired Alice even more at that moment. She could have reacted with anger, demanded that he choose, created a conflict. Instead, she showed empathy, understanding, and that only confirmed for him that he was making the right choice. The wedding went as planned. Alice, impeccable as always, in a beautiful white lace dress. There were lots of flowers, friends, and relatives who were special to the couple. Virginia was there, quiet but present, wearing a light blue dress that Derek had never seen before. Virginia was extremely emotional and excited during the ceremony, and in some way it brought peace to both of them. After the honeymoon, a simple weekend at a seaside inn, Derek and Alice moved to the house they had rented, half an hour away from Virginia's house. It was a compromise, not so close that it hindered their independence, not so far that visits became difficult. It was a Saturday morning about a month after the wedding. Alice was in the kitchen, preparing the afternoon coffee, cutting fruits for a salad, when the doorbell rang. Derek was resting in the bedroom after a tiring shift. Alice opened the door and there was Virginia, holding a cake covered with a white linen cloth hand-embroidered. Her eyes looked tired, but there was a new serenity in them. "Good afternoon," said Derek's grandmother. "I hope I'm not disturbing." "Of course you're not," replied Alice, opening the door wider. "Please, come in." Virginia followed Alice to the porch, where breakfast awaited. For a long moment they remained silent, observing the still shy garden that Alice was trying to cultivate. The grandmother commented on the roses, difficult in that climate. And Alice admitted with a tired smile that she hadn't inherited her mother's talent for flowers. Virginia offered her some lavender cuttings, her voice gentle, like someone extending an olive branch. Alice accepted with a nod, sensing the weight of that simple offer. The silence that followed was not empty. It was a thread stretched between them, about to break or grow stronger. Then Virginia took a deep breath. "I was afraid," she said, looking at her own hands. "Not of you." She looked at Alice with sincere eyes, "but of what I was going to be without him." Alice felt her eyes fill with tears. "I understand. And I never wanted to take him away from you. I just wanted him to have space to love both of us." Virginia reached across the table and held Alice's hand, this time gently. "Forgive me, Alice. And thank you for not hating me and keeping your distance. You are very special to me too." Alice shook Virginia's hand, feeling in this simple gesture the promise of something new, something to be built between them. "What is happening here?" Derek asked, appearing at the veranda door, still sleepy but smiling as he saw the two women in his life sitting together. "We are planning a garden," Virginia replied, without letting go of Alice's hand. At that moment, as Derek joined them at the table, Virginia understood a profound truth. She had not lost her grandson. She had gained a new way to love, an expanded family, a place where, even as she aged, She was still needed, not as the sole caregiver, but as part of something greater. Virginia realized that morning under the sunny sky that love does not diminish when it is shared. It multiplies, adapts, and finds new pathways. Like a plant that, when pruned, does not die, it simply grows in new directions, stronger, more vigorous, more complete. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.